The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions, and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Good evening, everybody. It is Monday night here on Armed Radio, and that means you're listening to Daniel Sanders
and DonnieJ.
And this is Two Beards Talking. As we always do at the start of every show, we're going to give a big shout out to the troops. You guys are doing a great job. Come home safe. Keep up the good work. Everybody's rooting for you. And unfortunately, very, very somber news to report from the military world yesterday. 3 soldiers were killed in a training accident at Fort Stewart, Hunter Army Airfield. What has been reported so far, a Bradley fighting vehicle rolled over into, I guess rolled over in the water from what I read. And 3 soldiers were pronounced dead on the scene. The 3 soldiers were taken to... originally taken to, I can't remember the name of the hospital. Wynn, I think is the hospital.
Wynn Hospital, Army Hospital, yeah.
Yeah. 2 of them, after being taken to the hospital at Wynn, were released, and a third was taken to Memorial Hospital in Savannah with non-life-threatening injuries, according to the reports. So, of course, as per DoD protocol, the names of the individuals are being withheld until 24 hours after notification of next of kin. But our thoughts and prayers do go out to the families of the service members, and we will observe a moment of silence for them real quick. All right. So
it's, you know, it's really, it's especially sad, you know, as a soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, you put the uniform on and, you know, you go into battle, you get deployed, and there's always the chance that you're going to have to make the ultimate sacrifice, and that's sad enough. But to actually do it in a training exercise, it's you know, our hearts and our prayers, our thoughts really go out to the families of those 3.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and you hit the nail right on the head. You know, there's no eye-opening experience, I guess, to say, them being 19 years old and having to fill out your last will and testament.
Yes. You realize at that moment, man, this shit's real.
Yeah.
We're not playing soldier anymore. We're not playing sailor. We're actually, this is actually a real, we're going into the Gulf of Oman. We're going to general quarters. This is not a drill. And, you know, like you said, you know, filling out your last will and testament, next of kin, all that sort of thing at 19. It's eye-opening.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And I will never in my entire life ever forget that moment and what I felt at that moment at night, because, you know, I'm 19 years old, and for one, I don't have any personal property to leave behind to anybody at 19 years old.
You got that $10,000 life insurance, services life insurance policy, the $10,000. You know, wow.
Well, actually, I think it's gone up. I don't remember.
Well, that just shows you how long it's been since I was in. But anyway,
yeah, I think it's. I want to say service group members life insurance, SGLI, I want to say is up to like $100,000 now.
Damn, you mean my life was worth less back then? I guess. Now, you know, and this leads right into we'll get started. We're talking about the military. A very prestigious 4-star admiral has chimed in with his thoughts on what's going on in the current political climate. We're going to jump right into it tonight. General McRaven, Admiral McRaven, former Navy SEAL. He's the SEAL who oversaw the raid that took out everybody's favorite terrorist, Osama bin Laden. He's the one that planned the raid, that shot him in the face and dumped his ass in the ocean. And he's still dead today, and we're all very glad about that. But McRaven, it's kind of like General Mattis, you know, Marine Corps General, Navy Admiral. These are people who's on any list of warfare specialists, their names would have to be at the top. They know what they're talking about when it comes to our nation's military. I'm sure Mattis knows about the Marine Corps, McRaven about the Navy. These people have made their life. They're career military officers. And McRaven is come out with his strongest, fiercest condemnation against our current occupant of the Oval Office. In a New York Times opinion column, he says, for everyone who ever served in uniform or the intelligence community, for those diplomats who voiced the nation's principles, for the first responders, for the tellers of truth, and the millions of American citizens who were raised believing in American values, you'd have seen your reflection in the faces of those who we honored last week. And he was talking about at a funeral that he was. He says, they've seen our leaders stand beside despots and strongmen, preferring their government narrative to our own. They have seen us abandon our allies and have heard the shouts of betrayal from the battlefield. As I stood on the parade field at Fort Bragg, one retired four-star general grabbed my arm, shook me, and shouted, you will love this, Daniel, I don't like the Democrats, but Trump is destroying the republic. He said those words echoed with him throughout the week, and he goes on to talk about that we are neglecting its duty to be the protectors of the less fortunate. And I know a lot of people don't like the thought that our military or the United States is the nation's police force, but it's a role it's a mantle that we've assumed for years. We assumed it's at the Marshall Plan after World War II to help rebuild Europe. We have assumed it going in Korean War. We assumed it in Vietnam. We assumed it in Beirut. We've assumed it every time that we've ever put on uniform and gone to a foreign shore to fight against something that fight for our principles, fight for the principles of people who can't fight for themselves. That's what Marines, sailors, soldiers, airmen do. We fight for people who can't fight for themselves.
Right.
And to abandon an ally that fought with us against the Taliban, against ISIS, is it was once described as one of the members of the Kurdish forces said, what you're essentially saying is, don't jump into a well if the United States of America is holding the rope. Mm-hmm. So that's my take on that. And his decision to withdraw from Syria, whether you agree with it or not, both parties, he's got people on both sides that don't like what he's doing. And that brings us to the next point. One of his staunchest allies this week, his mouthpiece, his cheerleader, rah, 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 yay, President Trump, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, came out against him, against the Syria withdrawal. And surprising absolutely no one, the president turned against him. What do you take of that? I mean,
I'll be honest. I've not followed the news any at all this week.
Shame on you.
Yes, I know. Shame on me. I've just life gets in the way sometimes, and just the way things have gotten with the news in this day and age. And I'm probably about to get on a soapbox here, but
here we go.
It's become. You see it all over Facebook, all over social media. It's the divide and conquer routine. It's political party versus political party. Right. It's dividing the nation. It's I'm not going to be friends with you because you're a Democrat. Well, I'm not going to be friends with you because you're a libertarian. Well, I'm not going to be friends with you. All this other shit. We're friends.
We can agree to disagree.
Absolutely. But the thing.
I've seen. I mean, every day I check my Facebook page to see how many people have unfriended me. It's like, I don't like this game you're playing. I'm going to take my ball and I'm going home. Well, that's great. Get your marbles. Get the hell out of here. And don't let the door hit you in the ass. Yeah. We've lost the ability to disagree without being disagreeable. When one time in a court, things were getting heated, and I heard a judge say just those words: approach the bench, which usually means you're about to get scolded, and he said, "Look. You boys can disagree without being disagreeable. One more outburst like that and someone's going to jail." Well, you kind of back off after that. Right. But I've never forgotten that. Disagree, but don't be disagreeable. Don't be a jerk about it. Don't think that your opinion's the only opinion in the world, because I realize that a lot of people might not disagree with me. And I always caveat by saying, I voted for the man. And my position's always been, if you don't vote, shut the hell up.
Right.
Because that's your chance to have a say in what happens in this country. And if you elect to just not vote because you don't like who's running for office, because I didn't like who was running for office, but I still cast a vote. I chose the lesser of two evils. Well, I thought was the lesser of two evils, and I cast my vote. And, I'm sure that there's a lot of people that voted for our past president, President Obama, and they didn't like they didn't like some of the things he did.
Right.
Buyer's remorse, I guess. I don't know what you'd call it, but at some points you have to go, I've got to choose between bad or worse. And, I thought I was choosing bad. I didn't know I was choosing worse.
Well, I mean, we don't know that 100% for a fact, just simply because of the fact that Hillary did not win the election.
Well, the polls right now suggest that American people are having buyer's remorse because 39% approve of the job that our current president is doing. 57% disapprove. And there's 5% that has no opinion. And if you're doing the math like we did, that doesn't make sense. And we're trying to figure that one out ourselves. But anyway.
Democrats voted twice.
Yeah, I knew you were going to throw that in there. Those damn dead people, man. They cast their votes. And there's nothing you can do about it, But divided is, we're not getting that. We're not so divided anymore. But the polls are kind of weird because approval, disapproval, and then you go between men and women, and it's different. Each demographic is different, and without getting into the boring statistics, they've changed in the past 2 months, and people are starting to see maybe I voted the wrong way. Funny thing this week, we talked last week about how at various rallies around the country. The president's left behind a staggering bill for security because although he has his own security, whenever he goes to a certain city to hold a Trump rally, invariably the police have to hire extra security because they can't let something happen to the president, right?
Right.
So, but what they do is they pull in they can't say we're going to put all the forces here at the rally and leave the rest of the city unguarded. The regular patrols have to go on, so they have to bring in off-duty cops. They have to bring in overtime, and the overtime cost is staggering. And in Minnesota, it was like $800 and something thousand. And Trump, in true President Trump fashion, just said, I'm not going to pay you. Now, he's got millions and millions and hundreds of millions in his war chest, and he can use it for paying that because that's part of a legitimate campaign expense, and he is campaigning right now.
Right.
He just chose not to pay them. Well, this week, a bunch of supporters decided to charter some buses and head to Washington, D.C. to show their support. Well, the people who headed up the group to get on the bus, their credit cards were declined. And in true fashion, the MAGA people decided to blame the bus drivers and the bus company because they're not going to take our country from us, and they were blaming them for being non-supportive and for being Democrats and being leftist devils and all kind. And it's like it has nothing to do with that. They didn't pay the bill. You have to pay your bills. I don't care if you're the president of the United States or you're one of his henchmen or you're one of his administration. You have to pay your bills. You have to. And they didn't. And the buses said, we ain't running. So, of course, deflect, obfuscate, blame somebody else. That's what happened. But they didn't get to go and do their little rally, their little support thing. And we're seeing there's a lot of cities he's going to. If he's coming to a city near you, and a lot of mayors, mayors, governors, whatever, they're going, okay, before you bring your rally here, I need to be paid up front.
Right.
And, the list of people that before he became president, the list of people that have legitimate grievances against the president for not paying his bills, for just saying, I think that's too much. I mean, they range from Frank Sinatra on down to, your basic contractor that pours cement in one of his buildings. They just didn't get paid.
Yeah.
And this goes back to what I said last week and what I've said before. It's a case of narcissism run amok. And, I think what we're seeing right now is it's not just, and I know you love throwing off on Democrats, and that's fine. and I'm cool with that too, because I like making fun of whoever deserves to be made fun of.
Right.
And sometimes Nancy Pelosi just she opens herself up to it. You can't help.
It's not
Chuck
just
Schumer.
Pelosi.
You got these people are caricatures. And I watched the Democratic debates this week, and it was like, who can go to the left of who else?
Right.
I'm like,
Kamala Harris.
You guys are moving to the left of Vladimir Lenin here. Let's get a little back towards the center, just a little bit, can we? But the list of people who are coming out with legitimate gripes. When you get your military involved, when you get retired generals, and the people who are active duty, they're not going to say anything because you know as well as I do, you don't badmouth the commander-in-chief while you're wearing the uniform.
Right.
But when you retire and become Mr. McRaven or Mr. Mattis, or even in the case of Senator Tammy Duckworth, the Democrat from Illinois, yeah, I know Democrat, she tore into the president, calling him, and I love this, a 5 deferment draft dodger. Now, I'm going to speak to people in the military. No, there's no draft going on right now. But those of you who are serving in uniform that are supporting the current president, think about this. You put on a uniform, you took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So think about that for just a moment, because the Constitution is coming under siege. And from an enemy who is domestic. Because when you go against what the Founding Fathers envisioned, when you go against the Constitution, the governing document for this country, the blueprint for democracy, then someone needs to step up, someone needs to speak up. Now, of course, you can't while you're in uniform, but I think it would really enrage me that somebody who got 5 deferments during Vietnam wants to put people in the military in harm's way. Now, we're used to being in harm's way. That's just part of the job. But needlessly, this withdrawal from Syria is, they're already shooting at us.
Right.
Now, Russia's issuing staunch, stern warnings to us, which we're kind of going, yeah, really? Really? You're going to warn us? Really? Okay. But I think, and I hope I'm wrong, I really hope and pray that we don't see anything tragic happen to our troops as they're withdrawing, because it's just like the cowards that we're fighting over there to shoot at us as we're backing out.
Right.
While we're entrenched and while we're ready for you, no, they're not going to do anything. But as we're getting ready to leave, then they're going to shoot at us as we're walking away in the back. And that's part and parcel of ISIS, of the regime that exists over there. But Senator Duckworth, she goes on, she says, she didn't like, this goes back to President Trump being good buddies with Kim Jong-un, the biggest despot, one of the biggest despots in the world right now, the dear leader of North Korea. Wah, wah, yeah. He says, Senator Duckworth said, does he even know that there are service members who are in harm's way right now watching him, looking for their commander-in-chief to show leadership rather than trying to deflect the blame? Or is that his own Pentagon, or that his own Pentagon says in the short term, funding plans he seems intent on pushing is actually harmful, not just to the military, but to our national security? Yeah, here's a news flash. You might not want to pay your bills when you go have a rally, but you need to take care of the military. You need to pay the military's pensions. You need to pay the military's paycheck. You need to make sure that they've got the weapons that they need to defend themselves and our interests when they're on foreign shores. And, he's not really doing that. She goes on to say, sadly, this is something that the current occupant of the Oval Office does not seem to care to do. And I will not be lectured about what our military needs by a 5 deferment draft dodger. Now, let me give you some perspective. That's not just a Democratic senator speaking, because Ms. Duckworth served in Iraq. She had both legs shot off in a helicopter accident.
Yeah, she was actually the first female double amputee from the war.
Exactly. So this is somebody who has earned the right the hard way to look the commander-in-chief in the eye and issue whatever she wants to say. She's earned the right to say whatever she wants to, and she's pretty much right on point here. Add her to General Mattis, who this week at the Al Smith dinner – I'm loving this. he said, I got my spurs on the battlefield, and the current occupant of the Oval Office got his spurs from a doctor in the form of a draft of a deferment. Mad Dog Mattis doesn't, and he's got a certain style about him. Marine that he is. He's got a certain style about him, and he just took it tongue in cheek, and he's going about his business. He's going on the circuit. He's promoting his book, and there's a man that I think has earned the right to say what he wants to.
Yeah,
he served in the administration and he left, and that's really all you need to know.
Yeah. Now I will say this about Tammy Duckworth. Despite her political affiliations, she used to be the assistant secretary of the VA. Mm-hmm. And I remember, and this is while I was on active duty, I saw this. There was a Senate hearing that she was involved in, and this guy was complaining that he wasn't getting his service-related benefits from the VA that he deserved. Well, it turned out the guy never served in the military. He went to a military academy and played football and got injured while he was playing football.
What kind of benefits does he deserve?
I have no idea. But he played football at a military academy, was injured while playing football for said academy, and somehow or another was receiving benefits from the VA for that. And he was going on this tangent about how this injury has prevented him from being able to lead a normal life. He can't play with his kids like.
So he's acting like he got this while on active duty. And exactly. He got it in a school.
Exactly. And she goes off on him. She lets him have it.
Well, that would, that goes right up to, her lack of respect, deservedly so, for the current holder of the Oval Office. She goes on to say, I have a message for Cadet Bone Spurs, because Trump was apparently a cadet in some military academy. But, I don't know if he graduated or not, or, obviously he didn't accept a commission because he got 5 deferments in Vietnam. But she says, I have a message for Cadet Bone Spurs. If you cared about our military, you'd stop baiting Kim Jong-un into a war that could put 85,000 American troops and millions of innocent civilians in danger. She's a retired lieutenant colonel.
Yeah.
Medically retired lieutenant colonel. Lost both legs. So, again, we've got to look, as with anything, consider the source.
Yeah. Now, here's the other thing about her. She actually received a medical waiver to continue to serve in the Illinois State National Guard even after her amputation.
And props to her for that, because I'm critically she's permanently, she could have taken medical retirement instantly. Yeah. But she continued to serve.
Yeah.
So that gives her even more credibility.
Yeah,
in my opinion. I know you hate Democrats, but still, you've got to admire her.
I never at any time have I ever said that I hate Democrats. I hate some of their viewpoints.
I hate some of the Republican viewpoints, but that's how we agree to disagree.
Exactly, and there are some Democrats out there, as we've already pointed out, that need to go find the closest tree and apologize to it for wasting all that oxygen.
And the same thing can be said for Republicans, because there's some of them out there that glorified cheerleaders, and it's like, can you bury your head in the sand and just not watch what's going on around you? I sometimes wonder, I can just imagine. Actually, I can't imagine, but it's hard to imagine what it would be like to be in the same room with the President of the United States, and you're tasked with being the one that has to keep him under control.
Right.
Case in point is this wonderful literary masterpiece that I'm sure you've read about earlier this week. Our president sent a letter to President Erdogan of Syria, and it reads it reads kind of like, you remember, probably not so much today, but when I was in school, you used to send these little notes, and this letter reads a lot like, the fourth grader who is sitting 3 rows back from that cute red-haired girl, and he wants to send a note, and at the end of the note, he basically says, circle yes or no. I like you. Do you like me? Circle yes or no. P.S. I'll call you later. Because, here we go. Here is what was said, all right? And I'll read the letter to you. And this is just it. When it first broke on the news networks, not Fox News, but on ABC, on CNN, on PBS, on the BBC, the first thing I heard was they said, we thought it was a joke. And so we had to confirm with the White House that the letter was real because it's on White House stationery. It's got his signature. But there are certain things that as a sitting president or as any head of state that you do and you don't do. There's certain rules to the prose that you have to use whenever you write a letter. And I think every single rule, unwritten or written, Donald Trump threw right out the window when he wrote this letter because here's how it reads. It says, the White House, His Excellency, Mr. Erdogan, President of the Republic of Turkey, dear Mr. President, let's work out a good deal, ! You don't want to be responsible for slaughtering thousands of people, and I don't want to be responsible for destroying the Turkish economy, and I will. I've already given you a little sample with respect to Pastor Bronson, whoever the hell that is. He goes on to say, I have worked hard to solve some of your problems. Don't let the world down. You can make a good deal. General Mazloum is willing to I can hardly read this. Is willing to negotiate with you and be willing to make concessions that they would never have made in the past. I'm confident. What does it say? Yeah, I am confidentially enclosing a copy of this letter to you just received. Now, here's the beauty of this. The last sentence. History will look upon you favorably if you get this done in the right and honorable way. It will look on you forever as the devil if good things don't happen. Don't be a tough guy. Don't be a fool! ! I will call you later. Love always. Donald Trump. Didn't say love always. But all he needed to put in there was, I'll call you later, bro. Do you like me? Yes or no? Circle
Check
1.
Yes or no.
I'll talk to you by the lockers after class. Come on, get real, man. Are you serious? And I wonder how it must have been. Can you imagine the speechwriter going, so what do you think of the letter? What do you think? And the speechwriter goes, well, Mr. President, it's written on paper, and it's a letter, and it has your signature, and it's on White House stationery, and I think it's a letter. Well, how do you think? Does it sound good? Well, Mr. President, because with this president, you can't say anything but yes. Anything other than yes, and you're getting fired. Anything other than yes, it's great, Mr. President, and he's going to go off on you. He's going to have a meltdown. So, can you imagine being the guy that has to go, if you're in the 4th grade and you're trying to talk to little Lucy with red hair and freckles in the 4th row, this is perfect. Other than that, it's not. It's not presidential prose, Mr. President.
I can't help but wonder if they folded it up
like a football, dumped it across the room.
Well, no, folded it up like you did the little love notes with the little tab that you pulled out and then could unfold it.
Draw a little picture of himself, little stick man of the president, little stick man of the president of Turkey, and then shaking hands. That, like I said, the people the news agencies that first got this, I can imagine they looked at one of them going, "Is this shit for real? You wrote this, didn't you? This is a joke, right? You just did this, right? No, man, this came from the White House. No, it didn't. You know,
to Taib from the Don.
See you at Mar-a-Lago. Love always, Donald. And these are just the things that's happening. And the rest of the world, I mean, literally, the entire world is going, really? And I think even his staunchest supporters, the ones who understand anything, any small thing about there's going to be a certain amount of people. I think it was. We'll go back a little bit of history now, and I may be wrong. If I'm wrong on this, I hope someone corrects me. Go to our page and say I'm stupid or whatever, and I'm a stupid head. Pull a Giuliani on me. But one of the ancient philosophers, not so much ancient, I think it was shortly after the founding of our republic, during the 1700s, maybe 1800s. It may have been Montesquieu, who warned, because he was French, and I think he warned against the dangers of having the unenlightened masses being able to elect a president, because they weren't used to electing anything. They were ruled they were in a monarchy. They were ruled by a king. They just had the French Revolution. But he looked upon this great experiment called democracy in the United States. And the one problem he saw was, okay, at the time, only white men of property could vote. But that being said, not all white men of property most of them were educated, gentlemen farmers, right? Not all were. And he saw a future where uneducated, unenlightened, in other words, people could vote. Now, I'm not saying that everybody that's in support of Trump's uneducated, because that's a generalization, and don't do that. However, that being said, there are a lot of people out there with mullets and and not as many teeth as they should have, that are, wearing their MAGA hats, and, no matter what happens, they're going to support. And I've said this on Facebook before. If you've got a certain political viewpoint, there's nothing I can say that's going to change your mind. If you are committed to supporting the current president, there's nothing I can say or do or I can write that's going to change your mind. So to post something inflammatory, to get into an argument with somebody, something else I heard one time, never get into a fight, never roll in the mud with a pig, because you're both going to get covered with shit, but the pig enjoys it. So the thing is, choose your battles wisely. And I can't change anyone's mind. I can simply comment on how I feel and what I think. And I can only echo the sentiments of a growing number of citizens in this country, politicians, Republican and Democrat alike, that are concerned with what's going on in the Oval Office.
Right.
And, this letter, this flowering prose that just recently came from our president is just part and parcel of what's going on.
Now, I'm pulling up an article here, and I hope this is the right article. No, that's not it. Basically, and you and I were talking about this earlier. As you said, Hillary Clinton has been exonerated of any wrongdoing in the whole email thing.
Yes, surprising even me.
Yeah,
I mean, because I'd like to point out at this point, when I went in the voting booth, I had to choose between Hillary. I had to choose between President Trump, and I voted for President Trump, largely because I actually believed, based on the evidence that I'd been hearing so far, that she'd done some wrongdoing, that there'd been some thing, not so much the server thing, but just the trail of bodies that's behind her, number one. But I was starting to lean towards, I think she might have had some irregularities, some things done wrong with regards to the email server, but not to be.
Well, actually, this is on the website Vox, VOX, and this is as of October 19th. Investigators found no deliberate mishandling, in quotation marks, of classified information by Clinton and her aides. Title of the article is Clinton's email practices were risky but not malicious. State Department finds. And it says multi-year State Department investigation into the private email server that haunted Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign is complete. After reviewing 33,000 emails sent to or from Clinton, investigators found that the former Secretary of State's practice of using a private email server for official work presented a security risk, but said there was no, quote, systemic, deliberate mishandling of classified information, end quote, by Clinton or her associates, according to a State Department report presented to Congress this week. You know, here's my thing about it, because her excuse, her defense all along was, well, I didn't know that it was classified information. Mm-hmm. When it's very clearly marked
classified information. Yeah, it's in a folder with red borders. I've seen them. I've seen top secret, stuff before. Classified, top secret, and you can't not know it's classified.
Well, no, the thing about it is, even on emails, there's basically like a little code. It's like a C. I can't remember the two dots.
Colon.
Yes, yeah, colon. Thank you.
For the grammatically challenged out there.
Yeah, it's like C : / or / or something like that. But yeah, that on an email signifies that it's classified.
Right.
As what was her role? Secretary of State?
Yes, Secretary of State.
As Secretary of State, she would know this.
True.
It's like the
that's where it comes in, not intentional. You think she would know it, but then again, you handle hundreds of emails a day, and she's got staff that filters. She's got a chief of staff, just like the president's got a chief of staff, just like the Secretary of Defense got a chief of staff. Everybody's got a chief of staff because there's so many people that work on her staff. You got one person that filters this stuff and hands it to her. The Secretary of State, whoever is in charge, their chief of staff filters the most important stuff to them. So she may have at some point, and I don't know this to be a fact, I'm just guessing here, she may have at some point said, I only want the most important stuff, sent to me, whatever, blah, 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 rather than only the classified or mark the classified or whatever. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I'm just saying that the total volume of emails that that the Secretary of State would receive on any given day are thousands.
Plain and simple, just she was exonerated because nobody wanted to die.
I'll give you that one. I will. But then again, maybe not. Maybe not. This was an FBI investigation. So, I mean, it's the FBI.
I won't even go on. That is a soapbox waiting to happen. I will not get into all of that because, now we're talking about James Comey. What's her face? The Attorney General. Hell, I can't think of her name.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Under the Obama administration.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's when all that was going on. There was the meeting between the Attorney General and Bill Clinton
on the tarmac.
Plane,
yeah, I know.
And they were just talking about grandkids. Yeah, kiss my ass. No, the fuck they weren't.
Well, nobody knows what they were talking about. But yeah, it's you've got to avoid the mere appearance of an impropriety. Not just the impropriety itself. You got to avoid the mere appearance. And they were lacking doing that, and that may have happened. However, that said, I think it's kind of funny that this comes out right now as everybody and for so long, the Republicans use this as a deflection tactic. As this administration's really good at deflecting. Well, I take that back. They try to be really good at deflecting. They're really bad at it because it's so obvious for the whole world. Even CNN has started, and I think this is funny. You haven't watched the news as much as I do, but if you watch CNN, and I watch it streaming, not live, so it's kind of unfiltered a little bit, but they've got this advertisement that's got a picture of an apple. It says, "This is an apple," and then this set of false teeth chattering goes across the front of it. It says, "This is a set of teeth." It's a deflection to try and make you think it's not an apple, but it can't change the fact that this is still an apple. And then there's another one that says this is an apple, and it's got you Googling, and it says apple in the Google in the box, but underneath it's got banana, banana, banana. It says people may try to tell you it's a banana. They may scream banana, banana daiquiri, banana, 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 but it won't change the fact that this is an apple. It says check your sources. And That's the thing. If you get your news from only one source, you're getting a biased opinion.
Absolutely.
But if you get your news from 6 or 8 different sources and they all say the same thing, they can't all be fake news. They can't all be lamestream media. And even this past week, this was really interesting. The president, and I may be wrong here, but one of the members of Fox News, it may have been Britt Hume, it wasn't Shepard Smith because he's gone. It might have been Chris Wallace. Well, one of the two. The president said, I'm starting to not rely on Fox News because it's not working for me anymore. And he responded by saying, "You're right, Mr. President. I don't work for you. I cover you. I report on you. I do not work for you."
Right.
And this president has a problem with that. Anybody that's not for him is, you've heard the old phrase, if you're not for it, you're against it.
Yep.
He embodies that. If you're not for him, you're against him, as evidenced by his turning on his favorite mouthpiece and cheerleader, Lindsey Graham, this week. Because Lindsey doesn't like the fact that we're pulling out of Syria. A lot of people don't like the fact that we're pulling out of Syria. I think the troops over there like that they're pulling out, but maybe not. Because they think our troops do not like walking out in the middle of a fight. They like to stay and be given the tools to finish the fight and come home victorious.
Right.
And this is like cutting and running on an ally in the middle of a fight. And what's happening is a lot of people are getting slaughtered, military and civilians alike.
Yep.
And it's going to continue on. Am I glad the troops are coming home? Well, hell yeah, I am. I want everybody to come home. I want everybody to come home safe. Personally, I'd like to quit being America's police force. But that's not going to happen because we're the world's superpower. We have the greatest military ever assembled in the history of the world.
Right.
And right now, a lot of people look to us to do what they can't do, which is defend them, to fight their fights that they can't fight. And we're really good at doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And although I don't like having to be the police force, if there's going to be one out there, I'd like it to be us.
Yeah.
Because we're going to protect our interests. And we're going to do, ultimately, what's right. And that's my belief, because I think the American military will always do what needs to be done. They'll always do it the right way. They'll always fight the fights that need to be fought if they're given the ability to do so by the civilian leaders. And that's the thing. Since the founding of this country, the military has always been under the direction of civilian leadership.
Right.
And there's no getting around that. There never will be. But with respect to our leaders, you got to give us the tools to do the job that we've got to do. And you've got to leave us in the fight so that we can finish the fight. Otherwise, the people that died during that fight, the people who have died in Syria so far, people who have died in Iraq and Afghanistan, if we come home without finishing the job, we come home without eliminating ISIS down to the very last member, man, woman, and child, then the people who have died in vain.
Right.
And that serves no one.
Right. So we're gonna move on from there. I definitely want to talk about this real quick. Because, again, this is more of the Republican versus Democrat thing.
Oh, boy.
Kamala Harris was recently interviewed by Anderson Cooper on CNN. Mm-hmm. Anderson Cooper, I won't say that I don't watch CNN.
Right.
I don't follow CNN.
Right.
But Anderson Cooper is one of the few individuals that he actually has the ability to remain unbiased.
He will hold anyone's feet to the fire.
Absolutely.
He doesn't care if you're Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, straight, gay. He does not care.
Absolutely.
He cares about the truth. He cares about fact, not fiction, and he will hold your ass to the fire.
Yes. And we've already seen evidence to that during the Democratic debate when he was questioning Beto O'Rourke about the AR-15s and everything. Well, now Kamala Harris has come out accusing Rudy Giuliani, Trump's attorney, of what all did she say? Basically accused him of breaking
violating laws.
Yeah, violating laws and rules. Her actual quote has clearly broken many laws. And this is all talking about Giuliani trying to get a visa for Viktor Shokin, the former Ukrainian prosecutor that Joe Biden had done away with.
Right.
So Giuliani is trying to get a visa for this man and get him over here to the States. And Kamala Harris is, well, he's breaking all these rules and he's violating all these laws. And Anderson Cooper just flat out asked her, well, what laws? Mm-hmm. What laws has he broken? What rules has he violated? And her only response was, I don't know. But sure we're going to find something.
Not her biggest shining moment, no. Well, and Anderson Cooper, he, like you said, he is a very respected journalist. But back to the Giuliani thing, getting a visa for this guy. Yes, former Vice President Biden did fight to have him dismissed. But the reason he wanted him dismissed was because the guy is corrupt. His own country is investigating him for corruption charges.
Yeah.
Now, if you're an investigator and you're being investigated for corruption, what credibility do you have as a prosecutor or anything? I mean, your credibility is automatically out the window.
Right.
If you're accepting bribes, if you're tanking cases so that a mobster or mobs, which there's many in the Ukraine, so that the mobsters can run free, then you're corrupt and you have no credibility, and you should be removed from any reputable investigation. That's what he's trying to do.
Right.
But yeah, Kamala Harris, that was like not her shining moment, and Anderson, he was right on point there,
Yeah.
And after that, I think he roasted her a little bit. So.
Yeah, a little bit. So, she goes on to say, and this is a direct quote from her. She goes on to say, "We're going to find out, but I think that the range includes not only abuse of power and perhaps misstatement and mischaracterization of his role and his responsibilities, but I also really do wonder, just instinctively, whether there's been any bribery associated with Giuliani's conduct." So
sounds like a lot of supposition and absolutely no evidence.
Absolutely.
And, I don't like Giuliani, but, again, I deal in facts. I deal in reality. And if the man has done nothing wrong, I mean, a lot of what he's done is questionable. A lot of what he's done is immoral.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what he's done is wrong. But does it break the law? I don't know.
Right.
And that's what this whole administration is skating on. And the whole thing around the impeachment, and I understand this, was it wrong? Yeah. Is it done all the time? Possibly. I don't know. A lot of people don't know. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of back alley stuff that's done. I would like to point out, Giuliani's being investigated for and being accused of back alley Rudy's, what they're calling him,
Yeah.
Because he did the Ukrainian deal. It was him, Mulvaney, and one other that was the three amigos, if you will. I think Rick Perry
Right.
might have been one of the three amigos, and they were doing their own back channel to the Ukraine rather than going through the normal State Department methods, which is what you do. You keep everything above. everything is in the sunlight where everything can see. But sometimes, and every administration does it, you have a back channel. Okay? We don't want to – I'll give you an example. Prime example, Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
We can't – well, Donald Trump did, but we can't officially recognize Taiwan because it violates – it really harms our association and our relationship with China. So we're not supposed to recognize Taiwan. So when the president of Taiwan, or the mayor or whatever, called him, and he took the phone call, that gave them legitimacy. They loved that. Hey, we've been recognized by the leader of the free world. He didn't know that he just screwed up. But, and I don't have a problem with that because I think Taiwan should be free. I think they should be, separate from China. I think they deserve their independence. That said, we've always in the past had a back channel, not an official way to talk to them so that we could negotiate, so that we could keep on the level, so we could get things done. Mm-hmm. And it is done. What Rudy Giuliani is doing, to quote Bolton, I don't know what kind of drug deal they've cooked up. I love that line. Don't know what kind of drug deal Giuliani cooked up, but it might not be illegal.
Right.
We don't know because they won't tell us. We can't find out. And that's why there has to be an investigation. Right. Did you break the law? And if you got, and I hate to use this analogy, and I know we're running out of time, but I hate to use this analogy. You get pulled over by a cop, and I always used to tell people in the practice of law, if they say, "Can I?" The cop will always walk away and go, "Oh, by the way, do you mind if I search your car?" Kind of like, remember the old Columbo?
Yeah.
Where Columbo would walk away, and he would turn around and laugh and go, "One last question. That last question is going to kill you. Don't answer it."
Yeah.
And he'd always get them. That's a famous favorite tactic of law enforcement. If you think somebody's got something, okay, well, I'm going to let you go. Everything's fine. Oh, by the way, do you mind if I search your car? And people caught off guard, and they're like, well, no. You can have 13 kilos of cocaine in the trunk, and you're going to get caught off guard and go, well, no. Oh, wait. And then if you come back and say no, Well, why not? Now you got something to hide. And if you say, okay, and they search it and they find it, then you're going to jail.
Right.
So it's a tactic to, that last moment to come back and I always say, always at the onset, no. Do you have a search warrant? Do you have a reasonable suspicion? Do you have probable cause? If you have none of those, then no, you're not searching my car.
Right.
And people always go, well, if you don't have anything to hide, you don't mind me searching. No, I don't want you violating my Fourth Amendment right.
Right.
With regards to Rudy, it's different. You don't have anything to hide, then come out and show the American public. Here's what we did. Here's what we said. Big deal. But they're hiding. They're obfuscating. They're deflecting. And I think ultimately we're going to find out something went wrong. Some law was broken, and that's going to be the downfall.
Well, maybe they'll have the same luck that Hillary did. Maybe that's what needs to happen. They just start offing people.
Don't joke. Don't joke.
Yep.
We're going to have some retired State Department officials, because once they retire, they're private citizens. They can't have that executive privilege invoked. They can't be ordered not to testify, not to turn over records. Once they become private citizens, and a lot of them are jumping ship. Rick Perry just left this week. All of a sudden, now you're a private citizen, and we can make you come in. We have ways of making you talk, and we're going to see some of this happening. Mark my word.
So, last thing, and we'll touch on this real quick. There are very, very few Democrats that I actually agreed with in most cases. Tammy Duckworth being one of them, but Elijah Cummings.
Yes.
And very sad news, Elijah Cummings passed away last week at the age of 68 years old. And he
was a representative from the rat-infested hellhole of Baltimore, as President Trump called it.
Yes.
But he was a great champion of civil rights.
Yes, he was, absolutely.
Down-to-earth representative. His district always saw him there. He attended church. He was always helping out. During the riots, he came out and said, hey, stop. And he was one of the voices of reason, and when he came out and said, stop this, people listened. Hey, it's Elijah Cummings. We got to do what he says. He was a larger-than-life figure. And on his deathbed, I'd like to point this out, on his deathbed, he signed the paperwork to have subpoenas issued in the investigation.
Right. Yep. So, yes, again, our thoughts and our prayers go out to the family and friends of Elijah Cummings. So we will now observe a moment of silence for Senator Cummings.
Representative Elijah Cummings.
Yeah. Yes, Representative. Excuse me.
Since 1996, actually, he's been there for quite a while.
He has, yeah.
You don't get you're there that long. You do become. Was the chair of the House Oversight Committee, and like I said, on his deathbed, that was one of the final things he had to do. He signed the paperwork.
Yep.
So,
so we've got just a couple of minutes left. I'm going to take this time to plug our Facebook page, as we always do. Two Beards Talking. Like us, follow us, interact with us.
Cuss us out.
Yeah.
Tell us we're full of shit.
Yeah.
Call us stupid heads.
Yep.
Giuliani does.
So. I'll clarify. Giuliani has not said that we personally are stupid heads.
If he heard this broadcast, I'm sure he would.
He probably would. You're just a stupid head. You're just stupid.
And it was probably we'd be accused of broadcasting fake facts and fake news. So
probably.
But that's okay, because I don't give a shit.
Well, I'd probably stand a better chance of it than you do of being placed on Trump's campaign staff at some point or another.
I don't think there's a bunch of. I'm not waiting for that phone call. I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm not holding my breath for it either. I haven't put all of my eggs into that one basket.
And I'm strangely comfortable with that. I really am strangely comfortable with that.
That having been said, if they were to call me up,
you're going to put on a red MAGA hat.
No, I got my Marines hat. I'm not wearing a MAGA hat.
There you go. I got a Navy hat. I'll wear that one, but I'm not.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to wear a MAGA hat just because I've already got a red shirt on. That's just too much red.
Oh, you're going to clash here? Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah, too much red there. So, but yeah, go on Facebook, like us, follow us, interact with us. Even if you don't like us, still like us.
We want to hear that too. Yeah. Tell us that you don't like what we're saying, or that we're full of shit, or whatever. Just interact with us.
Yeah,
it's like they'll say. There's only one thing worse than being talked about, and that's not being talked about. Only worse thing than being called, and that's not being called. So call us.
Yeah, we would greatly appreciate the interaction. And I'm also going to take the time to plug my other show on Tuesday nights, 2AT, Second Amendment Talk, with myself and Rod Burks, where we're talking about the Second Amendment, everything Second Amendment related, politics, just everything going on with that. So be sure to tune in for that as well.
It's all about the right to keep and arm bears.
Exactly.
I mean, keep and bear arms. I get those two confused sometimes.
Well, it's like that Family Guy episode. Of course, how much plain can it? You can't get more plain than this. Everybody has a right to hang a pair of bear arms on their wall. Oh man! So
load you, lock and load, and listen.
Exactly. So again, big shout out to all the troops out there. You guys are doing a good job. Come home safe. Everybody here on the home front's rooting for you. Donnie, I got nothing more.
Plug my own radio show, Saturday afternoons, noon to 6, Sundays from 6 to midnight, and Mondays from 7 to midnight on Alabama's Country Giant 105.1 FM WQSB.
Yes. Largest.
One last thing.
Yeah.
20th and 42nd anniversary, if you will. 42 years ago tonight.
Last night.
42 years ago last night. The country rock and roll world lost one of its legends. Ronnie Van Zant, Steve Gaines, and Cassie Gaines. Ronnie Van Zant, lead vocalist, Steve Gaines, lead guitarist, and Cassie Gaines, backing vocalist of the band Leonard Skinner, were killed in a plane crash in Mississippi as their plane went down. Played a tribute to them tonight. Several songs by Leonard Skinner. One of the most covered songs ever. If you go to Talladega, you'll hear it. If you go to a football game at Bryant-Denny Stadium for the Crimson Tide, you'll hear it. Sweet Home Alabama. A rock anthem, Freebird. Hearts go out to the surviving members of Leonard Skinner, who epitomized a phoenix rising from the ashes, because the band is still playing today to sold-out crowds, and one of the most influential, most covered rock bands of all. They've influenced genres of music, country, pop, even hip-hop and rap for decades. And last night we celebrated, memorialized the 42 years ago that the plane crashed.
Right, and I'm just going to throw this out there real quick as a musician: stop asking for Freebird. If you go to see a band at a bar or a club or anything like that, stop asking for Freebird, because 9 times out of 10, one, we don't know it. And 2, even if we do know it, we hate playing it. And
it's 8 minutes long anyway, so But it's one of those songs. There was a list the other day I saw on Facebook. This song cost Sweet Home Alabama $10. This song $20. This song $50. This song $100. $1,000. Freebird, the Electric Slide, Cupid Shuffle. You want to hear those? You're gonna pay.
Oh, absolutely. So that's all the time we got. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Daniel Sanders.
I'm DonnieJ.
Thanks for listening, everybody.